This is what a typical Finnish supermarket looks like, and there are two things you will never miss: dairy and beef. Milk, yoghurt, cheese, cooking cream, butter, cubes and strips of meat, mincemeat, meatballs. These are all connected. How? Finland consumes more milk than almost any other nation, 360 kilograms per capita per year. That is almost 1 kilogram per person per day. The S Group accounts for 44% of all grocery sales in Finland, and perhaps surprisingly, 80% of beef sold in the S Group's grocery chain is mincemeat, 95% of which is Finnish dairy cattle. In Finland, dairy consumption is connected to beef consumption. One might think that beef and dairy are local solutions with a long tradition and have been the prime source of the national food security of Finland, where the winter is very long and thus farming is challenging. Over the past decades, however, Finnish dairy production has shifted from the traditional method that feeds cattle mostly on hay to an industrial one, feeding animals on imported soy and other crops. Consequently, the average breeding cycle has shortened from 10 to 15 years to 4 to 5 years. In fact, the organic milk produced using a similar method to traditional milk accounts for only 5% today in Finland. In the meantime, Finnish meat consumption per capita has doubled. Compared to the 60s, pork and poultry consumption has almost tripled, while beef and dairy consumption has not declined. Not surprisingly, more than half of Finns are overweight, and 20% of the population is obese. Diabetes is very prevalent among Finns, and more than 10% of the state budget is spent on that single illness alone. Finland is also among the countries with highest risk of osteoporosis, which can be caused by excess protein. A recent study at Harvard concluded that red meat contributes to cancer, cardiovascular disease, as well as diabetes, all of which are increasingly prevalent in developed countries. All in all, we're consuming more meat and dairy than we need. There is no need to do it. The world population was only 2.5 billion back in the 50s, and today it has exceeded 7 billion. With the current trend, it is projected to be more than 9.2 billion in 2050, which means 4.2 million a month and 10 times the current Finnish population annually. Meanwhile, meat consumption per capita worldwide has doubled since the 60s. Surprisingly, the 2006 UN FAO report concluded that the greenhouse gas emissions from meat production are more than 1.5 times all transportation emissions worldwide combined, and recently WorldWatch published a much higher figure. What is worrying is that meat demand worldwide in 2050 is projected to double if we continue to follow the current trend. Meat and dairy production doesn't only contribute to climate change, but also to water scarcity. Beef production consumes 4 times more water per kilogram than egg production, 7 times more than soy production, and 11 times more than wheat production. UN IPCC in 2007 projected that global warming during the 21st century would range from 1.8 to 4 degrees. It is estimated that about 15 to 40% of species will collapse with 2 degrees of warming, and the extinction rate will be half of all species with 4 degrees. Additionally, crop yield will decline substantially as temperature rises over 2 degrees. The polar region will be, and already is, facing more dramatic change, and the greenhouse gases in the permafrost will all the more accelerate global warming. According to the greatly respected medical journal Lancet, the impact will spread into all aspects of human living, and ultimately it will alter the system of our society as a whole, and therefore climate change is not only the planet getting warmer, but critically associated with the well-being and survival of humanity in the 21st century. What is our choice given the information? As already proven with the Northern Karelia project, with its small and well-integrated society with a high level of education, Finland is the optimal place for new societal experiments and changes. Given the harsh climate for agriculture, if Finland can reduce meat and dairy consumption, any other nation in the Western Hemisphere can do it, which can exemplify what can be done all around the world. Cutting back on beef may be the most affordable and effective solution to slow down global warming and to adapt ourselves to the consequences of climate change that has already happened, because with an ever larger global population, meat and dairy production contributes to climate change, water scarcity, food crises, and water and air pollution. The goal is not to guilt people, but provide alternatives that help make better choices, both knowingly and unknowingly. Visit www.beeffinland.org. We need your help.